Question: have you dug up any legends that might provide more clues as to the origins of the typical black-skinned African? I'm a West African descent, by the way. Okay, probably West Benin. Where are you located at? Say it in the chat. But I'm not in agreement with the whole BLM thing, which is weaponized movement. I agree. So can you give me the hard truth? I'm going to give you the hard truth. And the hard truth is that all the evidence we find, the black race was all over the entire world. And for a long period of time, it was the only race here. The black race was the only race here. The racial questions are hard. They're hard, but I'm going to tell you now, before Caucasians, before Asiatics, before the Native American, the Mongolid type ever were introduced on this surface, blacks were already here. And they were probably on every continent. The modern evolutionary natural selection and uniformitarian models are predicated on studies that were done in the late 1880s, 1890s, 1910s, all the way up to the 1960s. And these models were borrowing from what was believed to be true. Carbon-14 dating, relative dating methods like potassium argon, and especially cross-reference with ice core data and dendrochronology. And both of those have now proven to be absolutely patently false. Tree rings don't appear once a year. They appear according to rain season. They even appear if there's massive flooding. Oh yeah, a tree can get 2 to 3 rings a year, and it totally botches all this crap. So what they use to confirm older data has been disproven. Ice core dating has been disproven because there's all kinds of atmospheric things that would contaminate the data. But none of the models have been changed, even though the methods those models were built upon have all proven to be false. Yeah, guys, you got to read Evolution Cruncher. You got to read Forbidden Archaeology. You got to read some of these researchers who are out there showing you that the entire scientific world is full of shit. Every bit of it. But in the Mayan Popol Vuh text, we find something very peculiar. We find a belief that a race of people were planted here by the gods. And over time, the gods realized these people here are not going to do what we want them to do. So they destroyed the world in a cataclysm, but not all those people died. The origin of all the different races is because the gods were specifically planting different races here. The sudden appearance of Cro-Magnon, which is even a greater mystery, because it is also found out that Cro-Magnon man was very advanced. Their anatomy proves that they were a sedentary race. But where did they come from? If the whole world was full of Neanderthal, which were very apish, super strong, and barely used tools just for weapons and cooking and all that, then how did Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal overlap? Because that's exactly what we find. Recent finds by anthropologists have shocked the community because bone middens of the Neanderthal camps have been found full of Cro-Magnon bones with knife and teeth marks, showing that the Neanderthal hunted, killed, and ate the Cro-Magnon. Here's an ape-like human, an apish, freakishly strong, violent, animalistic type human, anthropoid, that is hunting modern men and women. How do we know this? Because our anthropologists they're real slick about calling them Cro-Magnon, which puts a mental image in your mind of another human type that's not us, but they are us. They are us. The reason the cranial capacities are slightly bigger and the bone epiphyseal cartilage buildup is thicker is because they lived in a different biosphere. So the Maya answer our question. Many ancient American traditions talk about the different races of men. And in those traditions, those races were deposited here, which is, it's basically It's the conclusion of other researchers in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. There's even one book that I cite. I believe it was Ivar Zapp. In his book from the 50s, he literally said he can conclude there's no other conclusion from all the series of facts about the origin of Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon, and then modern Homo sapiens sapiens, is that it just appears that whole races were just planted here with their memories intact. He even painted a scenario where there may be a 2 or 3 hours or 2 or 3 days of utter confusion before everybody's programming kicked in, and they just became, and they just started. They all woke up one morning and their whole entire history had been implanted, but they were just recently deposited here. And the historical archaeological record confirms this observation because nothing else makes sense. I've documented over and over and over these anomalies and strange happenings and why history cannot possibly be linear. It cannot be uniformitarian. It's all a lie. Something is removing and introducing materials into the construct. Whole populations are removed and others are put here. And as we grow more and more intelligent, the evidence is wiped away under the mask of what appear to be natural disasters. Braden Buford, your stance on a chosen race, as far as I'm aware of, is that we are more or less genetically modified by some extent, manifesting itself through beard growing, lactose tolerance, intuition, emotion. It's kind of that's yeah, man. That's kind of going in several different directions like that. So, question: how do you see the biblical 12 tribes of Israel? Does it include multiple peoples, races, or do you think it's only one? I have seen some hold a stance that black people were the first race and then whites came subsequently following modifications. All right, that's a lot to unpack in there. Israelite DNA has flooded India. It has flooded North Africa. It has flooded the entire Mediterranean until there's no distinguishing from someone who is not related to the ancient Israelites. It has flooded the Americas. It has flooded all of Europe. But the purest strains of ancient Israelite DNA would have to basically be found in your Cossacks, your Welshmen, your Scottish, your Irish. Most of England would not qualify unless we're talking about people in England who have a high concentrations of Norwegian, like Denmark, Sweden, Norway, anybody who can trace their ancestry to the Vikings. Vikings originally the people of Russia, the core Russian people previous to a bunch of incursions from the Eastern Mongolid raids, the Huns coming in and doing everything that they did. So these are the people that have the most Israelite blood, but even this doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't mean anything because something in the past saw the problem of race that was going to develop in the future and didn't want that to be a deterrent to someone's spirituality. And what I mean is written into the ancient Israelite faith was a concept known as the sons of adoption. Often, the adopted peoples or the adopted sons and daughters, not only were they given equal right and status with the blood-born sons and daughters, but often because they weren't of true noble blood or true Israelite blood, they acted with higher moral fabric, higher ethics. They acted greater on the battlefield. They had something to prove. And we see this phenomenon all the time. And in the structure of ancient Israelite faith, which later spread through all the Gaelic, all the Gaul, all the Celtic faiths, because ancient Israelite faith was basically a faith that spiritualized the tree. The tree was the center of man's spirituality in life. This is where the core essence of Druidism. This was ancient Israelite faith. It is called the Cedars of Lebanon. And back then, the Cedars of Lebanon provided whole fleets, their timber, to make these big, beautiful ships. Israelites were a people of the wood. This is who they were. And their spirituality had everything to do with the forest and the interaction of man with the trees.